With Monster Crown Sin Eater being out today as of the time of this video going live, and having played through the game before launch without any access to guides or any sort of outside sources, there were definitely some things that I had to learn on my own, and in today's video we are going to be going over 10 tips and tricks that you should definitely know so you don't make some of the same mistakes that I did. All that being said, if you want to see more Monster Crown Sin Eater content, make sure to subscribe to the channel, like the video, share it around, etc., and we can definitely keep making more videos like this. That being said, make sure to sit back, relax, and let's dive in. Okay, so these tips are in no particular order, but this one I am putting at the front just because it's so important, and that's to save often. In Monster Crown Sin Eater, if you die, you will return to the last time you saved the game in true classic RPG fashion. This means that if you've done a ton of progress and then decide to get in over your head and go up against a boss, you're gonna lose that progress. There's not really much to say about this tip, but it's so important. If you're watching the video while playing the game right now, save your game right now. Pause the video and save your game, please. Make sure you're saving before any major encounter, whether it be against a boss or a monster that you want to capture or whatever, because you will definitely thank yourself for it later. Now, for my number 2 tip, this essentially has to do with how the game works in general. Monster Crown Sin Eater is an open world game that, yes, has a set landscape and world, but the contents of said world are ever changing. If you're low on cash or looking for some extra XP, traversing these same areas will net you something new, as Tamer packs containing various items and loot are randomly generated through the game, as well as various Tamers and other NPCs. You might be running around and someone's chasing you down trying to mug you, and you can defeat them in combat. You might find a really useful item, etc. This is the type of game that you can explore essentially indefinitely and continue to get new items. So make sure when you are backtracking, you take the time to explore in order to maximize your gains. For my number 3 tip, we have the Tamer perk system, and my tip is to not sleep on this thing. As you level up, you will gain access to several abilities, including better odds for wild hybrids, better prices at stores, and so much more. Which perk you end up taking first is definitely going to depend on your playstyle. I personally think that Pact Comprehension and Synergy Mastery are very good, as they make it easier to capture monsters and build synergy. And the Hair Pack also gives you a really good buff to your offensive stats as well. So for number 4, we have crossbreeding and fusion. These are 2 different systems, but will generally net the same result with a caveat. When you fuse 2 monsters together, they will consume the monsters used. However, it will maintain the average monster level, which you can kind of abuse to get lower level monsters up to a higher level by continuously fusing them with higher level monsters. But with crossbreeds, you will maintain the parents and get an egg, but that egg's level 1. Also, very important, make sure you're checking out the Fusion preview and then the Genome tab, especially if you want to pass over better base stats as you're going. I do want to do a dedicated video for Fusion, so let me know if that's something you guys would be interested in. Basically, when you're passing over your genes and whatnot, you have to balance them out, but you also want to bring over the biggest stats. So what you could do is click the fuse option, check out the preview, it'll show which stats are being brought forth, go back to the Genome tab, switch them around, and rinse and repeat. Like I said, there's a lot when it comes to Fusion. I'm definitely going to have to do a dedicated video. I don't have enough time to explore the system entirely in this short segment, but if enough of you guys ask for it in the comment section, I definitely will do that. Now, this is a little tip, but it has to do with some of the items in the game. Firstly, you have the sleeping bag, which allows you to pass time. This is pretty good when it comes to trying to refresh certain areas in order to loot them again, like we talked about in the exploration section. You can also meditate, and I don't even really know what that does, but it made me encounter a demon, so that was pretty cool. You can also find feathers throughout the game that will allow you to essentially fly from anywhere, but do keep in mind you cannot do this when you're in a cave, so if you're going to go into a cave or a dungeon area, make sure you're prepared. These are 2 particularly useful utility items, and there are several items in the game that you're definitely going to want to keep an eye on. So when it comes to recruiting new monsters to your team, you must use a pact in order to do so. Now, that being said, there are different types of pacts that you can use. There are, of course, normal pacts, which are standard capturing units, and there are supreme pacts, which are just better versions of these. But there are also some monsters that you'll notice with a sort of outlined glow and these will not be able to be captured by regular or Supreme Pact. These are demon monsters and can only be captured if you have a demon pack. Demon packs can be found throughout the game, much like every other item through various loot and whatnot. If you notice a monster instantly scoffs at your pack, double check to see if it's glowing because it's probably a demon. Now in combat, you'll notice the synergy bar on the left hand side of the screen of your monster. There is of course one on the right hand side for the enemy monster as well. This synergy mechanic is really important to Monster Crown and does a couple of things. When you have enough synergy, you can use crowned moves, which are buffed versions of the moves in question. Simply press right on the D-pad whilst hovering over any skill in order to activate this. You can also use a crowned synergy transformation, which is acquired when achieving 100% and will transform your monster into an advantageous variant and activate crown synergy on all of its moves. In order to efficiently build up your synergy, you can switch out your monsters, or my favorite is just to use the defend option, which takes your turn but reduces incoming damage heavily. So Monster Crown does have an evolution system, but it's something that pertains to a select group of monsters. Throughout your journey, you'll find various evolution items, including the Atomic Clock, the Super Grow, the Book of the Dead, the Frostbite, the Ferrorizer, and essentially these items can do one of two things. You can either use them mid-battle to get a massive buff and evolve the monster temporarily, or you can use them outside of battle in order to gain a permanent evolution for your monster. This isn't really the time or place to go into lore, but each of these has a really cool backstory. The Atomic Clock, for example, ages a monster, which triggers a transformation. I just think that's pretty cool. Now for number 9, I have just the move Equalize, okay? If you find a monster with the move Equalize, you will if you go to Dew Cave in the first area, by the way. But if you find a monster with that move, it is so good. It essentially averages the HP total of the monsters in question. It's kind of like Pain Split from Pokemon. This is really good against those boss monsters with massive HP bars, as you can allow your monster to tank a hit, use Equalize, and just devastate them accordingly. You can also couple this with Silver Dash for speed priority, and you end up with a really good combination that'll let you cheese a lot of bosses. Finally, for number 10, I usually put these in tips and tricks videos for a lot of the monster taming games I cover, but this is not Pokemon, okay? If you go into this game assuming it's a Pokemon game, you're going to have a lot of troubles. You are not going to have your hand held. You're not going to be given much direction on where to go. You're supposed to be exploring this game the same way you'd explore any open world game and training your monsters accordingly. I was actually talking to a friend of mine about this, and I could definitely see some people complaining that the game doesn't have enough of a linear progression route. And it's kind of interesting to me because if Monster Crown was 3D and they made the world a lot bigger, but just with the same amount of content and filled it with empty space, people would call it the most innovative thing in the world. I think because it's a pixel art game and because it's turn-based, people assume that it needs to play exactly like Pokemon, and that's just not the case. This is an open world game with a lot of stuff to explore, condensed into a not small but moderately sized map where every area is filled with content instead of just spreading it out and not really respecting your time. Take the time to explore various areas. Don't just rush into each boss fight, or you're going to see a massive difficulty spike because you're meant to actually explore and train your monsters and do your own thing. But yeah, guys, that's pretty much it for the video. Let me know down below if you want to see more tips and tricks or just a fusion guide or whatever. These were very basic, but I want the general community to sort of understand how to play this game. I know there's going to be someone out there that's somehow already got 190 hours in the game, despite the game just coming out today, telling me that, oh, I already knew all that stuff, but you ain't the norm, okay? Anyways, subscribe for more. Thank you so much for watching. Special thanks to our supporters, especially Candy Morency, Valorware, TragSoft, Nemo, and Wrathful Beast. Become a channel membership. Make me say your name. That's just over there, not over there. Anyways, bye.